Hello everyone, welcome to A Clear Perspective. I'm Serene. Over the weekend, there were rallies and marches protesting against anti-Asian hate crimes in several cities in the United States. Some even seem to be dominated by Chinese people. However, doubts have been raised over the motivation behind the protests, as well as their organizers and the participants. Are these people all victims of hate crimes, or do they have another agenda? As the case of the Atlanta shooting gradually clears up, it is safe to say that a lot of these so-called hate crimes are not racially motivated. But with these rallies continuing to hype up hate crimes, which supposedly target Asians, it is not so simple. There are a few questions we want to ask. First, does racial discrimination against Asians exist in America? I wouldn't claim that it is systemic, but there will always be isolated cases. However, there seems to be some traces of racism in the left's pursuit of anti-racism, especially on issues like school enrollment. Has there been a recent increase in hate crimes against Asian Americans? It could be possible, or so the protesters claim. However, the vast majority of these attacks happened in the liberal Democrat-run cities. These places have leftist politicians and are supposed to have less white supremacists. And the majority of these hate crimes were not committed by white people. In all my years in America, I have never seen a white person attack a person of color because of their race. Second, what is the goal of these protests? Historically, there have been many movements against racial discrimination, a major one being the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s. This movement had the goal of abolishing state laws that segregated people by race. But today, instead of protesting laws that discriminate against Chinese people, people are protesting against violent crimes committed by individuals. These actions are illegal and have clear punishments. Protesting against an unjust law is very normal. The 1992 Los Angeles riots erupted after the verdict, not before. But if it is an individual crime caused by racial hatred, it is due to the offender's own notions. Will protesting make these notions go away? I don't think so. On the contrary, it may strengthen them. Let's look at BLM. Has the American community become more divided or harmonious after this movement? I would say, with all of the violence and the protests, it definitely isn't the latter. It is clear that either an individual or a group of people want to wreak havoc in America, and the BLM movement wasn't enough, so now they are using Asians. This brings me to my final point. Who is organizing these protests? Let's mainly discuss the possibilities among the Chinese community. The Chinese population in the United States generally have very few unsolicited groups. Organized activities related to China can be roughly divided into 5 categories. There are protest activities in support of the pro-democracy movement. They are generally concentrated in the major cities on the east and west coasts. There is the Chinese Democratic Party in New York. There are also protests for the fair treatment of Tibetans and the Uyghurs. And finally, there are the Falun Gong protests. These have the largest number of participants and have been ongoing for the longest time. These 4 groups oppose the CCP. The 5th group is the pro-communist group. A new group that we are seeing are the Chinese pro-Trump activists who emerged during the election. Most of these people have not participated in Chinese political activities before and are more integrated with American society. They are not organized and keep their distance from Chinese politics. So I think it is fair to say that most of these people will not participate in protest against racism. So who are the organizers of these protests then? There seems to be instigators in every city, and their actions seem to be organized. Almost every solicited organization has ties with the Chinese Communist Party, in that it is either organized by the CCP or by people who are pro-communist. There are also organizations that have become controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. For example, the Rally in New York was organized by pro-communist associations such as the Fujian Hometown Association. The head of the Fujian Hometown Association, Zheng Siqi, said that the community was affected by former President Trump's discriminatory remarks on the China virus during the pandemic. Zheng claimed this was causing hate crimes against Asians. The pandemic was caused by the cover-up of the CCP, and the anti-discrimination rallies followed the exact tone of the CCP and the leftist media in the United States. Such rallies are very similar to the progressive socialist agenda aimed at destroying America. There are signs that say, "Down with the U.S. empire, forward and forward. The warrior's duty is heavy, women's grievances are deep." These are all slogans used during the Cultural Revolution in China. I am very curious what kind of people are holding these banners. In addition, some of the slogans sound exactly like something the radical left would say. For example, outlawing immigration and customs enforcement, rebelling against white supremacy, and crushing the patriarchy. In fact, the left is much more racist. Discrimination against an ethnic group is racist. So are preferences for an ethnic group. They are just two sides of the same coin. Anything that is done in the name of color, race, or gender is racism. Let's look at the United States today. With the hype from the media and the politicians, are racial problems getting worse? Asian Americans are a minority group, but they do not have their own unique racial interests in the U.S. The rights of Asian Americans are inseparable from the rule of law and the human rights in the United States. Next, let's look at illegal immigrants. According to a new study, $4.38 billion are going to illegal immigrants through stimulus checks. The Center for Immigration Studies estimates that 2.65 million illegal immigrants living here have Social Security numbers, which make them eligible to obtain stimulus checks. According to Stephen Camarota, Director of Research for the Center for Immigration Studies, these illegal immigrants are alien temporarily present without status. Yet, under the current system, they are still given work authorization and Social Security numbers. The study shows that in 2020, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services awarded work authorizations along with Social Security numbers to 882,000 illegal immigrants. Asylum applicants are usually given work authorization while they wait for their case to be concluded. Furthermore, another 600,000 have Social Security numbers from when they were legally in the country but have overstayed their visa. There is simply no question that millions of illegal immigrants will receive billions of dollars in COVID relief checks. Camarata said, "This is a clear indication that America is simply not serious about enforcing its immigration laws." Next, let's take a look at Biden administration officials. According to ABC News, President Biden reappointed several officials who worked for the Obama administration. Some of these officials have had a dramatic increase in net worth over the past few years. Jeff Zients is the wealthiest official on Biden's team. Zients reported owning between $89 million and $442 million in assets. He has 1 million worth of shares in Facebook, where he has served as a board member. Domestic Policy Council Director Susan Rice's wealth also grew dramatically. In the recent disclosure filing, she reported between $36 million and $149 million in assets. That is 3 times more than the assets she reported in 2009, when she started her position as the ambassador to the United Nations for the Obama administration. Rice served on the board of Netflix and had a significant amount of stock options in the company. White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain also declared assets of $4.4 million to $12.2 million, also about 3 times higher than in 2009. The most jaw-dropping example would be National Economic Council Director Brian Dees. In 2015, right before he got appointed as Deputy Director of the Office of Management and Budget, he reported owning between $81,000 and $215,000 in assets. But now he reported between $2 million and $7.2 million in assets. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki reported up to $1.5 million in assets, which is 10 times more than what she had in 2009. The assets include stocks, real estate, income from writing and speaking, etc. Psaki's financial disclosure showed that she worked as a CNN contributor and an advisor to West execs. She charged the companies $5,000 for consulting fees. Lyft is one of her clients. Zions also paid her $5,000 for consultations. It is unclear what kind of consultation services she provided to her clients. But we do know in 2017, current Secretary of State Antony Blinken founded the consulting firm West Execs. Several Obama-era officials worked there. These assets revealed the White House officials' extensive influence on American corporations. From an ethical point of view, government officials should divest themselves of any interest in private organizations or avoid cases that may involve their private property. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. We hope to see you next time.